Okay. Good evening. My name is Oscar Sida. I'm the program director and faculty at for Human Services at Great Basin College. And this is going to be a short presentation on licensure and the processes of getting licensed in the state of Nevada as a substance abuse counselor. There's a lot of different terminologies that'll be a little confusing. I'm going to place that's not it. I had it ready, but I guess somebody else didn't get it. So. No, I can't get around this. It's like trying to watch your grandfather use a computer. I assure you, I know what I'm doing. It's a lot going on right now. Okay, this is the PDF, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So if you'd like to review this PDF later, the links and things like that, you'll be able to get into it. So that right there is my shared drive, and this particular file is open if you have that link. So you can share it amongst yourselves or whatever you like to do. Let's get back to the presentation here. Okay, Cheryl got it. Thank you. I'm glad to see you. So let's get started. You don't need to know anything about our college because you all are attending, I'm assuming. Is everyone attending GBC right now, or there might be some folks from the community, so I should address that. Just let me know. Okay. Okay, so really quickly, I'm excited to see the folks that are here today. I hope for a bigger turnout, but to be honest, not a lot of people want to become substance abuse counselors. It's very intimidating. They have their own preconceptions about what it is to be a substance abuse counselor or that working with that population. Another one of my part-time jobs is I train new counselors that are coming into the field. And these are LCPCs. In the state of Nevada, we have a licensed clinical professional counselor. These are counselors that are licensed to practice individual, group, family counseling. They are trained to treat just about every major mental disorder. And the majority of them that I train, and I try to encourage them to work with, addictions, because a lot of them are like, well, they don't feel comfortable. They don't have the training. I said, well, while you're under my supervision, which is around 2 to 3 years, depending upon how quickly they gain their clinical hours, I let them know that this is the time to do it because I can guide you through it. I can help you with interventions with the client. I can help you with treatment planning and things like that. But a lot of them are just not interested. So, and I'm always kind of thrown aback because I think, okay, so substance abuse disorder is the second leading mental health disorder that you're going to run across when next to depression being number one, and you don't want to know how to treat it, or you're not interested. That'd be like a doctor who doesn't treat a common cold or the flu. It's going to come up. It's going to come up with whatever clients you have because they have families and they have a history. And so sometimes those things all overlap. And if you don't know much about addictions or how it works and how to treat it and what are some of the signs of it, you might misdiagnose something as a mood disorder or psychotic disorder when they're really abusing drugs and alcohol. They can get really, they can kind of mimic each other's symptoms, if that makes sense. So this little graph here I put together about 5 years ago when I was working at UNLV, I guess 6 now. And I was trying to get some funding from our university to support our minor that we had in substance abuse counseling because we just didn't have a lot of support there. We didn't have enough faculty. We didn't have no licensed faculty. I was the only licensed faculty member that had a substance abuse counseling license. And to try to kind of impress upon them the need that we had for these kinds of professionals. This is the number of counselors by state, and these states are relative in population size, similar to Nevada. So you can see where Nevada, we're about third from the bottom, just ahead of Hawaii and Nebraska in terms of substance abuse counselors. Utah being the largest with the greatest number of providers at 3,736. Now this is 6 years ago, this data, so it's a little old, but it still holds true. We don't have enough counselors, mental health professionals in general, and even the problem is even worse in the rural communities, which many of you represent. Where is everyone from? If you guys don't mind typing in, let me know where you're from. I'm trying to keep everything on because I know if somebody raises their hand, I won't be able to see it unless I have this little window up. So, okay, Wendover, Elko, Georgia. That's okay. And Fernley. Yeah, these are small rural communities. They're an important part of Nevada. I was born in Nevada, raised in Nevada. I love Nevada. It's in my blood. And I have a real passion to help increase the mental health providers that we have available to our population for services. If we don't, we're all going to suffer because this is my home. It's been a home to 5 generations of my family. I'm planning on living here till I retire, and even then I'll probably stay here and just travel a bunch. But here's another little chart here that outlines the provider supply. And let me just move some of this stuff around so we can all see it. Hello, Robert. Good evening. Just popped on. So if we look at psychiatrists, we're ranked 50th in the state. Psychologists, 48. Marriage and family therapists, 8th. We have a lot of MFTs. I'm not sure why that is. I think they just had a kind of an established presence here for a long time. And then we also get a lot of folks coming in from California who are MFTs. Mental health counselors were 40th. My license number is C0096. That means I'm the 96th mental health counselor in Nevada. It's relatively a new licensure. When I was just finishing school, they had professionalized the license. The American Counseling Association had a big effort to lobby the Nevada legislature and then codify that licensure so it was regulated and able to kind of create that professional service here in Nevada. Before that, it was just substance abuse counseling and MFTs and psychologists, things like that. Substance abuse and behavioral disorders, 47th. Mental health and substance abuse social workers, 46th. These are people that are usually dually licensed. I'm dually licensed as a LCPC and LCADC, and I can talk about what those mean later. Psychiatric aid, 31st, and then psychiatric technician, 51st. And these psychiatric technicians are very important. We need them to man the behavioral health hospitals, the psych units. Without those folks, we can't run the day-to-day operations. The doctors can't do anything. The intake folks can't bring in patients. The therapists can't run groups, facilitate family meetings and individual counseling and care. And the nurses can't, they just, nothing works without those psych techs. So they're really they're an incredibly important part of that inpatient hospital system. So without that, we have lots of challenges. And you can just see that. And my hope is that you're all inspired to go on to become substance abuse counselors, and then even further and get masters in mental health, and then be duly licensed and do both and just have at it, because we need, the more of you there are, the better you're trained, the more you'll enjoy your job, the more job satisfaction you'll have. It's a good career. You can command a good salary in the beginning. It's just like anything, it takes time, but you can go up pretty quickly. And with the baby boomers already into retirement age and my generation approaching it, we're going to see this huge loss of professional practitioners going to retirement or semi-retirement, and we're going to need somebody to take their place, and if we don't have that, the provider supply is going to get worse. Any questions as I'm talking about this? As I said, you can raise your hand and I can unlock it so you can talk, or if you want to just type the message, I'll try to answer it that way. want to move this all the way over. So if you raise your hand, I'll see that you raised your hand, but I won't see. Jesus. And now I'm on my touchpad too, which I hate. I always use a regular mouse, but I'm literally in a hotel room in front of a window, and I got like an ironing board that I'm using. All right, I'm just gonna. I can't win here. Okay, so the median pay for a substance use counselor starting out is $23 per hour, about $48,500 per year. That's not bad. You're almost $50,000. I would say median pay in Nevada is about $50,000 to start. Typical entry level is a bachelor's degree. Number of jobs in 2021 is 351,000, excuse me. And the job outlook is we're gonna see a growth of 12%, where most jobs are growing between 7 and 12%. Excuse me, 22%. So that's much faster than average. That means there's gonna be a lot of employment opportunities. And this employment change that we're seeing from 2021 to 2031 is the addition of 77,500 additional professionals. But let's take a quick look at, these are some job postings I got from the web today. So this is substance abuse counselor in Nevada. There's currently 7 openings for the state of Nevada. And you can just take a look here. These are all through the Department of Health and Human Services. Some are the Department of Corrections. So you might be working with folks who are incarcerated and doing rehabilitation while they're incarcerated as an early release to their sentence, or just they want to, get their addiction under control. Trust me, drug use is rampant in prisons and jails. They get it there. I don't know how, but they do. They make it. And we can just take a look at some of the salaries here, so you get an idea what this looks like. So salary range is, like I said, it was higher than average, 51,800, and the top salary is 76,921. So you're going to get regular raises working for the state. They don't ever fire anybody because they need as many workers as they can. It's a civil servant, but they have great retirement. They have great benefits. It's just something to think about. There's just one sector, and this is the government sector. I don't know why these IT guys showed up. Group supervisor. So these are social workers. Social workers would require social worker 1 is usually an undergraduate degree, but the LCSWs usually require a master's or above. So that was the substance counselor 3. This is a substance counselor 1. So they have these in grades. So a little bit lower to start out, but this is what you might want to do when you're coming in. And I think these folks can be interns. Bachelor's degree. Now you got to have that bachelor's degree. And you can be an intern, yeah, right here, counselor intern. And I'll explain to what an intern is. A lot of you're doing your practicum, which we call internship, but when you're in a professional licensure, you'll have an internship that will be part of your training. It's more akin to residency. Like when a doctor finishes medical school, he'll go under supervision of a licensed physician for a couple of years and be taught some of the nuances of the profession. Madison has a question, since she doesn't live in Nevada, will this still help me understand what my state might require? Yes, but it will be different because each state has their own individual requirements. So you want to take a look at their requirements. But I will tell you that Nevada requirements are very in line with NADAC's, which is the National Association requirements, which most states try to follow. There is variation, so it won't be exactly like that. But check out the Georgia, Board of Examiners for Substance Abuse Counseling License or Mental Health, however they organize it, and check out their requirements. We're going to look at Nevada ones here because that's more relevant to what we're talking about today. But just keep that in mind. Okay, so that was the one. Okay, and before I don't how much time we got. 7. So we got like an hour left. Okay, that's not bad. So that was the state of Nevada. That's just in the state of Nevada jobs. But let's take a look at These are some agency. I just did a quick Google search for jobs in Las Vegas area. I think I just put Nevada. So right now, we've got licensed behavioral counselor. There's the job details: 44,999 to 80,000 a year. That's at the Nestle. This is a inpatient recovery, kind of private insurance place. There's so many things popping up because I don't have two monitors. Okay, I'm not gonna let it distract me. Now this one will require a master's degree, so it's a little bit different. And here's a substance abuse count. That's the same one. Comprehensive treatment centers. Let's see. Doesn't have the salary. That's what I like to see. But this one's got a lot of benefits, looks like. And they're probably going to start you by $25 to $30 an hour. Here's this one: individual therapy, landmark recovery, $60,000 to $65,000 a year. Now it depends upon which level of clinician they are. These are bachelor's level or master's level. So the salary is going to be different. I would say that most master's level counselors aren't getting paid less than $75,000 a year to start. These are probably somewhere in between there. And then finally, let's take a look at the U.S. government. Government positions are great for clinicians because they don't overwork us like they might in the private sector, and they also offer great benefits, days off, retirement. I already mentioned retirement, scheduled days off. They have, I would say, more agreeable work hours and things like that, and they have money, so they can hire more folks if they need it, where a business might not have that many. Okay, I guess that didn't show up. That's what I'm looking for. They have specific job titles. Here we go. So something like this. This is for the Marine Corps, starting out at $54,000, Jacksonville. But they have positions worldwide because we have military bases worldwide. We also have embassies that might have substance abuse programs that they're building up for the country that they're supporting. These foreign missions and things like that. And I just wanted you guys to know that there's more than you can do than just just work in an agency or something like that. I wanted you to see the breadth and scope of the possibilities if you have this licensure. And addictions, just seems like it's getting more and more and different. It doesn't seem to slow down. So there's always folks in need. And I wanted to show you another. I'll tell you, before I was looking at these jobs because I wanted to give you a little background on the positions and things like that. Come on. And I remember that before I came to GBC, and I've been here since 2016, so about 6 years, about the time it takes you to get tenured, which I've been. And before I got that job, I had applied to a job with the Marines as a civilian worker, not a contractor, but a worker that was hired by the Marine Corps to support their military bases in Japan, and this position was in Iwakuni, Japan. And at the same time I got the offer letter, GBC called me back for another position. I was working, at the time, running their human services program and their substance abuse minor. And I had these two, life destinies in front of me. I'm like, do I go to Japan? And I just wanted to show you guys a letter to show off because I was really proud of it. And these are orders, transport agreement, like they give military personnel, but this is for me as a civilian. And I was ready to go, ready to take it, and I was going to call the lady that day. And Amber, or Dean Dinelli, called me and said, hey, we'd love to have you for an interview. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the interview. Whichever one I get. And I got both. And I had to make a tough choice. And ultimately, I thought I would rather have the opportunity to train more professionals than just work in the professional field, working with individuals and substance disorder, because I thought the impact would be greater if I could train more clinicians and more people will be served than just by me. But and I thought, and you'll make enough money at the college, you'll be able to go to Japan anytime you want. So here it is. They have this travel allowance and everything. It was really cool. It was exciting. And I still think about it fondly, even though I didn't go. And then when I rejected the offer, they were pissed because they were really hoping I'd come out there. And all the folks they had were social workers, and they had very little experience. They wanted me to basically build the program from the ground up, which was really exciting for me, because I understand substance abuse disorders very well, and I don't work in a kind of a traditional way. And I think my patients get faster as a result because we hone in on what's really causing the disorder rather than just focusing on use. And if you just abstain, and if you just, find a new way to cope, yes, those things help, but that's not the entire crux of the issue. And I think a lot of it is misunderstood because folks who study and treat with exclusively substance abuse aren't trained in mental health. So I'm trained in both, so I can kind of see through both lenses and see what's going on. The sciences kind of overlap. So it's very helpful to be trained in, I think, in both fields. And I encourage you guys both to do that if you can. If you want to just stay at that level, then that's fine too. I don't want to go any further than you're interested. Okay, so what do substance abuse counselors do? What do you guys think they do? Just answer as you'd like. We have some little talking points here, but nobody. Go ahead and type in what do you guys think they do, just briefly. You guys still here? Okay, I'll call on, since you're going to play this game. So I'll call on Madison. What do you think a substance abuse counselor does in their day-to-day job? What is the function of? And I'm gonna allow you to talk, Madison. Oh, now you're muted. Come on, folks, we only got a limited amount of time. Okay, we got Cheryl. Help client understand, reflect, and get to what causes the addiction. Okay, yeah, that's a big part of it. Anybody else? There's no wrong answer. It's just I just want to get your perspective and where you're coming from, so I can speak more to where you guys are, coming from. I think with patients by providing different resources. In the Navy, the program was very regimented, all about culture. Yeah, so that's another issue, that they're limited in their scope of practice. So those folks will say, we can do this, but we can't any more than that. We got to refer you out. Helping with changing behavior. Absolutely. Yeah. Changing behaviors. That's what we're talking about. Changing the behaviors people engage in, because they no longer engage in substance abuse or substance use, then their addiction problem will go away seemingly. But that isn't always the case. Sometimes the other things appear. Helping each other. Yep. Okay. So I'll go through quickly this because I want to make sure you have enough time to get into some of the more the details about how to get licensed. So we evaluate clients, their mental, physical health, addictions, and problematic behavior, and assess their readiness for treatment. So we see, where are you in what we call in the continuum of care? Are you going to be okay in an individual outpatient, like going to a therapist once a week, working on your addiction? Or are you such a danger to yourself that you need to be put into a CD unit that has a 5-day detox, and then we start to keep you kind of in a locked facility so you can't kind of escape and go use? And people can, even though they're in a locked facility, that doesn't mean they can't leave. It means they can't sneak out for the most part. But if they're like, you know what, I'm done, I don't want treatment anymore, I don't want to be here, they're not in jail, and it's not illegal to have a mental health disorder. Now, if they're in a psychiatric unit and they're being held on a psychiatric hold, that's different. If they've been deemed as dangerous to themselves or others, or imminent threat of like an OD or something like that, then we have enormous power to take away people's individual rights and keep them locked in that facility until they're deemed to be well enough to be released into their own care. It's kind of scary if you think about it. Develop, recommend, and review treatment goals and plans of client and their family. So what do you want to get out of treatment? I like to stop using. I like to, be more productive. I like to get a job. I like to repair the relationships with my parents because in the throes of my addictions, things have been very disharmonious, if you want to say. Okay, assisting clients develop skills and behaviors necessary to recover from addictions and modify their behavior. Working with clients to identify behaviors or situations that interfere with the recovery process. Teach clients and family members about addiction or behavioral disorders and develop some strategies to cope with those problems. Refer to clients to other resources and services, job placement, support groups, housing, things like that. That is not my favorite thing to do. I hate being a social worker. I'm not good at it, and you'd be better served on because it's not my thing. I'm a therapist, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to, but sometimes that's part of the job, and that's kind of why I decided. Well, I don't know what this does. I'm afraid if I click that's going to close something, and I want to see what this is. Okay, well, we're just going to leave it there. Let's see, conduct outreach programs. I can't read this one. So this might be something like going to a school and talking about drug use and addictions and the problems that it creates. So I keep disconnecting. Okay, no problem. Okay, moving on. So I meant to take this out, but since it's here, I'll explain it. The older guy is Bill Miller. The other guy in the black shirt is me. And Bill Miller is a researcher who really pioneered motivational interviewing, which is a great tool in working with folks who are ambivalent in their addiction. And they're not sure they want to change, or they're interested in change, but not sure how or why or when. So you basically, it's called motivational interviewing, and it's an outgrowth of Carl Rogers' person-centered therapy or client-centered therapy. And it's a way of approaching clients in a very respectful, non-judgmental way, with positive regard and some other tenets that escape me right now, empathy. And anyway, I had the opportunity to meet him. He was a professor and researcher in New Mexico. And I was down there on vacation, and my friend said, "Hey, I got a surprise for you." I set up a coffee date with Bill Miller. And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was just blown away because we both use him in our work. We've lectured on him. We've done trainings in motivational interviewing. He's got 1 million books out. He's got, a bunch of independent studies reaffirming his findings and what it shows is that empathy, and you've probably seen this if you've taken the substance abuse class for me, is the number one factor in that the counselor can provide to help encourage change. If somebody cares about you in some way, even if it's not like lifelong and personal, it is enough to facilitate change. And that's one of the greatest outcomes measure that you can measure for successful treatment is how well did the therapist empathize with their client. So there's something that's really integral into empathic listening and caring, in a dispassionate way. What I don't mean, not in a passionate way. Like you care for this person. It's a form of love, but it's not romantic. It's not personal. It's like general for the well-being of another human, and that has a big impact on how people respond to treatment. So kind of the old adage, love heals all. It's kind of true in this case. Anyway, that was a point of pride for me in my life. I got to meet one of my heroes. So, and he was a very congenial gentleman. He brought his wife. He gave us a couple hours of his time. He was no rush. He was semi-retired, but he's still working and quite busy. And I was so grateful to have the opportunity. Okay, so let's see. Getting into licensing. Okay, so here are some of the major mental health. These are the websites for the mental health boards: psychology in Nevada, social work, marriage and family therapy, and clinical professional counseling. That's mine, and then drug and alcohol, which is also mine here. So if you go to their website, that's not the one I wanted. Oh, I guess we're just going to find it. and take a look at, there's a license portal. So this is where you would begin, like if you were licensed. If you wanted the application process, you would start here. If you wanted information on about how to become a substance abuse counselor, that's it. That one. Okay. Here we go. So here's the general information, and then you're going to want to take out this look at these flow charts, and we'll do it together. But before that, does anybody have any questions as I'm going forward, or is there something specific you'd like for me to talk about? Because what I don't want to do is you come here, you don't get what you're looking for. So if you can let me know and give me just an area of interest, I can speak more to that. But I'll just go along until I see it. Something in the chat window, or if you guys want to raise your hand, hopefully I'll see it. So, okay, here is licensure in Nevada mandatory? Are there any exceptions? If you are a licensed clinical social worker, licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed psychologist, physician nurse who is licensed pursuant to regulations approval, you can become a drug and alcohol counselor. So license or certificate is revocable privilege. Keep that in mind. This is a privileged license. The holder acquires no vested rights. Just because you're licensed, that doesn't mean that you deserve to be it or they have to protect you. The Board of Examiners is there to protect the practitioner, the clinician, from the public, to make sure that they're properly educated, they have the experience and training necessary to perform this clinical function, and they require that you do continuing education every year, what we call CEUs, continuing education credits. So you got to, like, one of the reasons I'm here at this conference is to get more CEUs to renew my license. So I need to get like 40 every 2 years. So basically I have to sit through 40 hours of training and participate in that training and show that it's valid and that it was approved by the board. And it's a whole process, but it's part of being a professional. Nurses, doctors, lawyers, all professional licenses have to do these kinds of things. And so this is, I'm going to go through the requirements here. I see your question, Bernice. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We have got some time left. We got about 15 minutes left, so I think we're going to be okay. So the requirements are no abuse of alcohol or controlled substances or problem gambling within for a period of 2 years before submitting an application. So a lot of folks who are in recovery will decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to turn my life around. I got this calling. I'd like to use the experience that I have to help other folks. They go back to school, or they finish their degree, or they apply if they already have a credential that qualifies them. But they have to have been, kind of clean and sober. It's not a term I like to use, but it's the one they use, for 2 years before submitting an application. If you're on parole or probation, the board will not consider your application for a period of 2 years after the completion of your parole or probation. The completed application requires fingerprints, social security, resume, copy of birth certificate, driver's license, passport, documentation, high school education. They wanted my freaking high school diploma. I gave them my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and all the transcripts. And they're like, no, we need your high school. I had to dig out in my mom's shed, my high school diploma and give them a copy of it. I was like, are you kidding me with this? But anyway, that was it. You got to be 21 years of age. So if it takes time to get through school, that's okay. You have to be a citizen or prove a citizenship or able to work in the United States. Okay. So the degree, or excuse me, the licensure requires 4,000 hours of supervised practice before you're fully licensed. But if you have a bachelor's, think about that, 4,000 hours, typical working hours, you work 40 hours a week, that's 2,080 hours a year. So you're talking about 4,000 hours, you're talking roughly 2 years of supervised practice under a supervisor. Supervisors have a separate license from the drug and alcohol license. The supervisor license allows them to train, mentor, and monitor interns, and to make sure they're ready for their licensing examination, and then ultimately applying for their license once they've completed the hours. But there's an exception. These allowances, if you have a bachelor's degree with 18 semester units in addictions, it will reduce your number of hours of employed experience from 4,000 to 1,500. So if you go through GBC's Human Services Program and you get a bachelor's from us, you will have those 18 semester credits, and so you will get licensed within a year, and that's a big benefit to those graduating. The other detail is that you can start the licensure process once you have 60 credit hours within a specific field. So that means you could become a state intern. You could apply after you have your associates from us in human services. That will qualify for that. Everybody starts out as a CADC, a certified alcohol and drug abuse counselor, and let's see where it states that. Save your pennies, because it costs money to get licensed. What about convicted felons off parole? Well, if they're off parole, and depending upon the circumstances, the type of conviction, the board will make a ruling. And so you, as you do your application, you're going to disclose any past, incarceration or charges with criminal justice system, and just have a letter explaining that, and go for it. I've had plenty of folks who've had had a past, and they've cleaned up their act, and they're able to get licensed, no problem, and they're able to serve in this capacity. It does depend on what it was. There are certain instances where the board will not approve it, but in most cases, it's possible, if you can show that you haven't had any run-ins with the law for a period of time. Okay. Why? So, yeah, this is not the information I want to show you. Okay, here. Okay, so you want to become a certified alcohol and drug counselor intern. This is how everyone starts, as an intern. An intern means you're under supervision still, even though you have the education and training. You're just not fully there. You're not fully licensed, so you can't practice independently. So the first thing you want to look at is, do you have at least 60 credits towards your degree in an approved social science field, which human services is? So you could say yes once you have your associates. If yes, and we'll just follow this flow chart, then do you also have 6 hours of training specific to confidentiality, HIPAA, and 6 hours of training specific to ethics? Now you can take those online, or you can go to a conference like I'm at. CASAT, who's out of UNR, they have training programs that are, they have live virtual sessions, things like that. Now, I would say that our course in ethics will give you this. And if you just take the syllabus to the board, because I have a very specific book that I use for this very specific reason. What I'm trying to do when I design these programs, I'm trying to fulfill these licensing requirements, and they change over time. So I keep updating the courses and things like that. So you guys, one, you're better prepared than most, I would say, and two, so it's easier for you to get licensed, and then you start working, and then you stay in your community, and then you're a provider. Like Bernice said, she wants to work in Wendover. So the main thing you need to do. Let me finish this flow chart, and then I'll answer that question. So let's say you've got the 6 hours of training. You could do that online, any online place where you could take the HIPAA training and the confidentiality training. That's no problem. You could do it. So the I shouldn't tell you guys this, but the licenses, they expire like on midnight at January or December 30th or something like that. And so I'm always like taking CEUs online at on the 29th or something, because it's Christmas and then New Year's, and I haven't got all my hours in. And they make you read renew your ethics training and your confidentiality training every 2 years or something like that, because people violate it all the time. So they're like, okay, I guess we're just going to have refreshing their memory on it, and hopefully that will help, ameliorate these violations that happen with ethics and confidentiality, because it does happen, unfortunately. And I encourage any one of you guys to go to one of their meetings. No, not this. Oh, I'm already in here. Okay, let me finish this before I go on the tangent here. Okay, so what are the requirements? Bernice, you want to know, how do I become a counselor in my area? Secure an on-site supervisor agreement, then apply for internship. So then you would go to an agency in your community, or it could be one that's not in your community, but provides services in that community and provides supervision in that community. So let's say there's some agency called ABC Drug and Alcohol Counseling Therapy. We have offices in Reno. We have one in Wendover. You're in Wendover? Yeah. And they have a supervisor there. So you talk to them, say, hey, look, I got my associate's degree. I'm ready to apply. I got the ethics training. Would you like to hire me and be my supervisor? And they say, yeah, here's a supervision agreement. You get that agreement signed, then you apply to the internship on the board's website. Okay, here's the supervisor agreement right there. Apply here for your internship. Boom. They're breaking it down. Do this, then do this, and keep this in mind. You're going to forget this. You're going to ask me, and that's fine. And I'll tell you, don't got the PowerPoint that I gave you, so the information's in there. Okay, and you've got 5 years from the internship approval date to complete your internship requirements. One of those is that you have a bachelor's degree and you've finished 4,000 hours, with the exception of if you have the 18 hours of substance abuse specific coursework, then you only need 1,500 hours. Now, the reason they put this in there 5 years to complete is because some people, they get their associate's degree and then they never finish their bachelor's degree, and they're practicing for like forever. And then they're like, you can no longer do this. You never finished your bachelor's degree, and they will not allow you to renew your internship license. I saw this happen to folks, these old timers. They were in the 12-step programs and they were grandfathered in. They had kind of, before the training wasn't we've tried to professionalize this practice, and these are clinicians. They need to have a certain body of knowledge, and it has to be rooted in science and research, not just, some of the kind of tactics they use in what's called AA, which can be useful, but you've got to temper that with the modern scientific, research that has kind of that proven research that works. We can't just keep going based on old information from the past. And so anyway, these folks wouldn't get licensed, and then or wouldn't finish their degree, and then they would invalidate their internship license. So that's something to keep in mind. You want to, if you start out in your associates, you got to finish your bachelor's degree. Or if you have a master's degree with 12 semester credits in addictions, and the same thing will be reduced to 1,500. I didn't go for my license until I finished my master's degree, and I only had to do 1,500 hours because I had the 12 credits. But think about that. Think about what I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I'm providing you guys an opportunity to get licensed, to start your internship process after your associates with 60 credit hours in this field, with the specific, body of information you need, those courses, those addiction courses. I didn't start that and most people don't until they're in their master's degree. So then think about if you decide to go on to a master's, how prepared you're well, and you'll be well into the field, well established. So you can just kind of, ease into it. And I'll tell you, my associates and bachelor's programs, they're going to prepare you so well for a master's program in mental health, psychology, social work, MFT, that you will have a leg up against your peers, because we present the theory, we show you some interventions, we show you kind of the processes, we do all of the major mental health disorders and the addictions and mental health disorders course. I can't remember the number that is right now. I think it's 307. But anyway, those classes are hard. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I designed them that way. And Gerardo's looking at me. He's like, "For real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is what it's going to be, because I want these folks to be ready to go when they get done with their bachelor's." and so much of the information, you're able to do it. You're able to digest it, utilize it, but you can't apply it. But you can if you have the substance abuse counselor license. So it gives you a pathway where you're not getting burnt out on school, and you're able to apply and use the training and education that you've taken. Okay. So where else are we? If you're applying from outside Nevada, I don't know, I can't read that because this thing's in the way. Okay, it's not gonna go away. Provide verification of employment in the field, in the feld. That's a typo. It's not my typo. So that's the skinny right there. Questions about that, like what you need to do. I'll repeat it because it's a lot of information to take in. So once you've got your 60 hours, that's the associate's degree in our case, you go to an agency that hires interns and has a supervisor available. The supervisor, and you make an agreement with that agency and that supervisor, and then you apply to the board, and you do it right here, from this website here, licensure applications, and then you go through their portal and you start an application. I've already got one, but I did all mine on paper, so this doesn't apply to me anymore. But if I were to reapply, or I had to get a different license or something, I would use this. And then they'll step by step, you'll fill out those requirements. Same thing is true for drug and alcohol, or excuse me, problem gambling, if that's one of the things you're interested in. I'm also licensed as a problem gambler, as a problem gambling counselor. It's very useful in the state of Nevada. We got a lot of issues with that. That can be a niche market. And if you live in the rural communities, people gamble way more than they should for the amount of money they make. So there's a lot of issues around that. I'm licensed as a supervisor, and as a CPC, and as a substance abuse counselor. So I have all the training necessary to give you guys what you need to get into the field, and I'm a great resource. So the closer you get to approaching this, give me a call. If you have a problem, let me know. Do your homework, check out this website, the board's website, and get familiar with this, because this is going to be your profession. You don't want to say, oh, I don't know. You should know, because all the information's here. You should be going through this entire website and learning all about it, because it isn't just the one application. It's getting your license, it's taking your exam, it's continuing education credits and resubmitting those, renewing your license. As things change, you might have to contact the board. There might be an issue, a complaint. You have to know all the stuff about your license. And it's all in the regulations. The link to the PDF. The link to the PowerPoint is here, and that will link you to the PDF. Okay. I'm going to say something. I don't mean to be snarky, but make sure you're taking notes when you're attending any kind of presentation. Like you didn't have an opportunity to see this, but alcohol.nv.gov, or you can just type in drug and alcohol license Nevada and you'll find it. I was at UNLV, and there was a professor there. He was an associate professor, was going up for full. There's in universities, they go assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor. In community colleges like ours, we have instructor and then professor. I'm a professor now here. But I remember I was in a meeting with him, and we're going over, I think it was a policy update or something for the department. And he's like, do you have a pen, Oscar? And I'm thinking, what kind of professional doesn't have a pen when they come to a meeting? So always have a pen and paper, always take notes on these things. It's really important, because you want to be prepared and record the information that's necessary to you. And it's not just like, it's a way of disciplining yourself and going into any professional meeting. That should be just a norm for you. And you should let me go to my meeting notes from that day. And this is an important part of being a professional. Trust me, documentation as a clinician is nuts. So get used to it now, and then it'll save you a heartache in the future. So what I pulled up here is, and is the NAC, which is Nevada, what is NAC? Administrative Code. So Nevada Administrative Code comes from the legislature's NRS, Nevada Revised Statutes. So the legislatures ratify the laws, those are NRSs, and then the NAC are the administrative code that they use to interpret those laws. Okay, and this is the ones that are to this specific license. And I want you to look about how detailed it is. I'm just going to run through this real quick and I'll show you. It just goes on. And I know all this stuff, not all of it. I know a lot of it though. And I had to learn all this stuff. Okay, I want to be what is a practice of counseling a person with alcohol and substance disorder? It's defined right here. Practice of counseling with alcohol and other substance disorder is meant to describe as, and it goes to this link. Okay, practice counseling person with alcohol and other substance use disorder means the application of counseling to reduce or eliminate the habitual use of alcohol and other drugs other than any maintenance dosage of a narcotic or habit-forming drug administered pursuant to the, and then it goes on. This is how it goes. And this is how it defines all these things. Everything in the law has to be defined. And you are responsible for knowing this. It is not the board's responsibility to describe it to you, to explain it to you. They're like, go look it up in the regulations page. That is their job, is not to handhold you through your licensing process. That's for you to do. As I mentioned before, their responsibility is to protect the public from clinicians, and they do that by regulating the license. They don't have to help you. They do, but that's not their mandate. And you want to keep that in mind when because a lot of times people think, oh, the board should help me out. No, not necessarily. You need to approach the board and ask questions and offer solutions or ask them for information that you can solicit from them, but it is not their responsibility to manage your life. It's your responsibility to apply for it, to manage it, to maintain it, to understand the requirements so that you can renew your license. A lot of folks fall out of that. They're like, well, I didn't know I needed ethics now. And I'm like, well, you need to go to the board meetings. You need to be versed on the NRSs and NACs. And if you're not, then you're not a professional. This is things will shift from when you go from being in college to being a professional licensed practitioner. Those things are your responsibility. And I'm kind of putting a finer point on this because I want you guys to understand that you go into it with that attitude that I'm going to here to gather information and resolve the issues that I need. You can get feedback and ask for information from other licensed providers or your supervisor, sure. But don't get in the habit of asking people questions that you can find on your own. That is not the mark of a professional. That is a mark of a student. And students, that's your role. But once you've crossed that threshold from being a student to professional, your attitude has to change. And hopefully the whole experience of education will have prepared you for that. Okay, any more questions? I hope I answered most of the questions that you might have, but if there's any outlying areas that you'd like me to cover more, I'd be glad to. We have some time left, so we're running out of time, but about 30 minutes left, so we're good to go on time. Yeah. So this, I think Mark was asking for this. Let's see. Is this what you wanted, the flow chart? I'm going to paste it in the chat and maybe we can get out of there. I don't know. If you can't, you can always go to the board website. Yeah, looks like. Okay, any questions, comments, anything? Now's the time to ask. My hope is that everyone attended is interested in being licensed. I would like to mention that NADAC, which is the National Association of Counselors, has their own certifications that sometimes those credentials can be used in your state for licensure. Not all the time, but in some cases they can. And if you're in one of those states, like I know that who was it mentioned, they're from Georgia. They're in Georgia right now, Madison. And I would encourage you all to join as students. That's a reduced membership fee. You can sign up for the regional, national conferences. Like I said, I'm in Indianapolis right now at the national conference. There's lots of resources, certifications, and things like that. And you can join as a member, and as a student member, they charge you less for attending conferences, or the membership dues are lower and things like that. So it's all kind of designed to help students out so they don't have to pay as much until they're working in the field and earning a little bit more money. I think they have 2 different levels of licensure, and then they do have information on state boards and the exams for depending upon what state you live in. Okay, here's the state boards that are using NCC AP certification. I don't think that is. No, not. We're using the ICPC one. So it's a little bit confusing. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of information to start going forward. If you have questions or concerns, let me know. I'll help you out best I can. I don't see any comments, so if there aren't any, we can end the meeting now. I just want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to chime in before we cut off. I'm going to start my share right now because we don't need to. I want to be able to see any. Okay. No. So Robert asked, does the internship count for practicum? It's possible it could if you were in your bachelor's program and you were already licensed intern. You would have to work out the agreement with your practicum instructor. Say, hey, I'm already working. Can I use these hours for my practicum? Yes. With the associates, that wouldn't work because you wouldn't be able to have that internship license. Does that make sense? It's confusing. The word practicum I don't like because it's used in different settings. You might see it in an academic program that says you're in a practicum or you're in an internship. In our master's degree, they call it different things, and in your doctoral, they call it something else. So, but that's how it is. So try to get used to that word in terms of what I call a state intern. It's an intern who has their state license and they're licensed to practice under supervision. When you go do your practicum, they might call you an intern too, but that's through your academic program. It's kind of different. So, any other questions? Oh, hello, Ruben. I didn't know you were here. So, does anybody have any specific questions or comments they'd like to make? I don't want to cut the meeting short if we don't have to, and then leave people wondering like, what am I supposed to do? Or you ask a question that maybe somebody else might want answered as well, and they just didn't. They're a little shy. If you'd like to talk, just raise your hand and I can allow you to talk so you don't have to type in everything. Okay, well, I seeing no other questions and having gone through my presentation, we'll go ahead and end the meeting now. And I thank everyone for coming tonight. And if you need some more information, don't forget to follow up with the Google link that has the links to the documents that we reviewed. And then if you can't find an answer there, just give me a call or text me or email me. Everyone have a great night, and thank you for attending.